according to a December 6th, 2012 article out of CNN Los Angeles. The description of a Los Angeles street gang seems right out of Hollywood. In the square mile between the University of Southern California and an edge of downtown where an NFL stadium is being planned, a group of thugs called Harpys or Harpys Dead End Gang runs extortion rackets, taxes businesses, robs students, and threatens to kill snitches, all according to federal prosecutors. It was a 29-individual indictment spread across numerous counties and cities. At the head of the indictment was infamous Mexican Mafia member and Harpys 13 OG Danny Popeye Roman, who at the time of this indictment was overseeing more than a dozen Southern California street gangs. What made this story so interesting was that his daughter, Vianna Roman, was said to be the ear to the streets for Danny Popeye Roman, and his daughter was supposedly taking direct orders for the infamous leader. Also, Danny Popeye Roman, who I have made a video about in the past, met his bloody, infamous end in June of 2020. But this story is going to be about his daughter, Vianna.
The desperation of users creates a burgeoning demand. Street cops trying to stop the trafficking are overwhelmed and frustrated.
Cocaine and drugs are destroying this country, and it's going to get worse.
Why is it going to get worse?
Because we're out of control. We are out of control.
Sheriff's deputies Robert Rifkin and Mike O'Hara police the gang areas of southwest Los Angeles. Neighborhood graffiti here mark territory. When one gang crosses out another's logo, it's a sign of war.
The Lennox is the whole wall there. They were nice and big, so all the other rival gangs can come by and see this belongs to Lennox. You're in Lennox area here.
This area of South Los Angeles is chiefly Hispanic. Black and Hispanic gangs do not intermix.
Yes. The street here is well known for drug sales. Usually illegal aliens, Mexicans, will be selling dope on the street. See these two right here? They're local dope sellers and gang members.
The two, nicknamed Sneaky and Trapper, seem accustomed to police pat-downs, and they are proud of their gang loyalties.
You fighting with Inglewood 13?
Yeah.
Who else you fighting with?
For my enemies.
What about Tefla?
Step, I don't like that.
You don't like Tefla right now, huh?
Why not?
Chavalas.
Affiliations count for little, since sets of the same gangs often fight each other. A few blocks away, we run into one of Sneaky and Trapper's adversaries, Chico, a rival from the Tepper set. Chico says Tepper controls the area's drug distribution.
Nobody can hang around over here, not the gangs.
What happens if they do?
I don't know. Maybe he can get killed.
Other gangs can't come here and sell dope in your area.
No.
You control this area.
Yeah.
Not far away is a black neighborhood, turf claimed by different but just as violent gangs. Here we find a different culture, but the same deadly code of retaliation.
Last year, gangs killed 452 people in Los Angeles County alone. These gangs are spreading out from Los Angeles into communities across the state. 10 years ago, youth gangs were a problem handled by local law enforcement. Today, gangs are a statewide problem, an issue of major concern to the California legislature. 10 years ago, parents thought, not my neighborhood, not my kid. Today, gangs are active in communities all across California. Street gangs are not a new phenomenon in California. They've been here since the turn of the century. What is new is the increasing violence associated with gangs and the growing numbers of kids who are involved.
Okay, in the state of California today, it's estimated there's over 2,000 active gangs in the state now. Compared to 10 years ago, there was approximately 765 active gangs. It's estimated that 70,000 gang members in Los Angeles County alone.
In the past 10 years, we've seen the gangs trade in their knives and zip guns for Uzis and AK-47s. And now many have turned away from burglary and theft to take up the more lucrative business of dealing drugs.
The gangs that are coming in now are more sophisticated and more violent. And I think that stems from the neighborhood and the sign of the times. Now you have more money on the street, you got more drugs on the street, you got more weapons on the street, and we're getting those kind of individuals into the youth authority.
Who are these gangs? In California, there are almost as many different youth gangs as there are different ethnic groups. And while these gangs may differ in their choice of crimes and victims, their choice of drugs and weapons, the children who get involved in these gangs have much in common.
In the state of California, the largest number of gangs that we have are Hispanic gangs. They have escalated throughout the state, and they generally are more turf-oriented. They're involved in more crimes of identity and defending the name of the turf versus crimes against the general public. They're involved in drug use, but not to the point of openly selling drugs as other gang groups have now developed in sellings of drugs.
When I really got into it, I was about 11 years old. I was in 5th grade, and my whole family was involved in gangs. My mother, my father. I got 8 sisters and 5 brothers, which were all involved in gangs. And it was just the way of life for me. You know, I was raised around it, in drugs and violence. You know, watching my brother and his homeboys out in the street fighting.
You know, it's all it takes is a look. You know what I mean? What you looking at? What you look? Well, let's go. And then before you know it, bottles are thrown, knives are being pulled out, guns, jacks. You know, and you just get it on. You know, and go for it. And wherever comes out hurt, comes out hurt.
I've been shot once and stabbed 3 times.
And they come by and shoot our houses up, and we go by and shoot theirs. They want to play that, well, let's play it. You know. And there's times my mom had to.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Greenlit Gang TV. Hope y'all having a blessed day. Getting this video up for you guys either in the morning or at night. It should be uploading. I'm doing it right now in the morning in my kitchen. But regardless, I hope you guys do enjoy the video. Really quick before we jump into it, if you do like the video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. We are trying to get to 25,000 subscribers sooner rather than later. Really excited to bring you guys this video today. We're going to be talking about Danny Popeye Roman's daughter, Vianna Roman. There's a lot of good information out there about Danny Popeye Roman, an infamous Mexican Mafia member, one of the OGs of the West Side Harpys or Vadio Harpys gang. Harpys, Dead End. There's so many different names for the Vadio Harpys, and then they have a lot of subset and a lot of different cliques. But regardless, Danny Popeye Roman, I would call him the face of the Harpys gang. And what made this story about his daughter very interesting is how basically he goes to prison in 1984 for murder. She was only 9 years old. And from there, I'm not sure exactly how old she was or at what point he decided that, hey, I trust her. We're close enough. She's down. She's got the fortitude, the mental strength to, I believe, run the show for me while I'm locked up in prison. So we're going to be focusing more on her, but really quick, a little bit of background on the West Side Harpys or the Vadio Harpys gang, also known as Harpys 13. It's a long-standing Hispanic street gang located in the West Adams district of South L.A. The heart of their neighborhood stretches from Figueroa Street and Normandy Ave between Washington Boulevard and Jefferson Boulevard. The Vadio Harpys have over 200 active members and originated in the 60s, according to police records. The Harpy's name is derived from the American Harpy eagle. I put a picture up of that, which is the largest and most powerful raptor found in America. Then they talk about the 2 subsets of the Harpys, Dead End Harpys and the Wild Bunch, and these 2 cliques were originally local football teams. Both emerged as one of the larger Harpys gangs. And then there's a lot of different subsets and cliques, such as the 25th Street Tiny Locos, 27th Street Chicos Malos, 28th Street Dukes, 39th Street Tokers, and 5th Ave Midgets. And it talks about how they share some of their neighborhoods with the Rollin' 20 Bloods, who beef with the 30 Harlem Crips. And I want to give a shout out. I'm really focused on giving shout out to certain sites or channels that I visit. This particular site is United Gangs. I've used some of their pictures before. Really good point of reference. And this website does a really good job of breaking down all of the different street gangs in and around California, Los Angeles area. And there are a lot of them. I don't think people realize the amount of work that goes into getting the information on these gangs and just how many, there's so many different gangs, so many different subsets, so many different cliques. It takes a lot of time to do this. So what makes the Vadio Harpys stand out and why, if you just go on YouTube, just do a Google search, there's so much information out there about this gang. It's because of the individuals that have made up this gang, in particular, Danny Popeye Roman, right? It's why Valencia 13 is so big out there, okay? Because some of the crimes that have been committed, the individuals that represent these gangs, same thing that goes for, pick a Norteño gang, pick another Southerner gang, right? Same for African-American gangs, right? Bloods, Crips, certain sets, like the Rollin' 60s, right? Nipsey Hussle made up the Rollin' 60s Crips. So the Rollin' 60s Crips, they're just more predominant, more famous because of individuals like a rapper, Nipsey Hussle, or, anybody. Pick your favorite musician or a street guy like a Danny Popeye Roman, right? Or big-time Fed or state-level cases that came down on individuals. The Harpys gang is just kind of one of those gangs that has, how do you want to put it, very infamous main characters, right? Danny Popeye Roman, his daughter being two of the biggest ones. And then you have a rapper, a little bit of a history on Conejo, which is rabbit in Spanish. Now, he's also a West Side Harpys gang member, Vadio Harpys 13 member, who committed a murder, went on the run for 10 years. He was also very musically talented. And if you go and check him out, YouTube, Google, talks about how he went to war with MS-13. I'm not going to get into the background of that. That is a whole nother video in itself. There's a lot of great channels that cover him. I encourage you to go check it out. But also, another Harpys gang member raises the profile of the gang. And these gangs love that when their profile is raised. More respect, more attention. You got the juice, man. You're carrying the weight. But Danny Popeye Roman is the OG of all of this. And it's just fascinating that he brought his daughter into this. Hence why that federal case, when Vianna Roman and the 28 other defendants got picked up in 2012, it had been a 2.5-year operation nicknamed Roman Empire. That's because you got this Roman family that literally had an empire behind bars and on the streets. First, this is an article, December 6, 2012, Vianna Roman and other gang members arrested. The description of a LA gang seems right out of Hollywood, and that was about the square mile between the University of Southern Cal and an edge of downtown where an NFL stadium was being planned. We're not going to read we're going to skip that paragraph because that's what I used for the intro. But in all of the indictments, there are 29 defendants. 5 are fugitives or have yet to be fully identified. Officials said the remaining defendants are already in state custody on other charges. Roman, now serving a life sentence, and that's Danny Popeye Roman, without parole, all allegedly controls Harpys and more than a dozen other Latino gangs across South LA. But he is not charged in the indictments, prosecutors said. Roman is a member of the Mexican Mafia, and he allegedly gave orders from prison to his daughter and her husband, both of whom were arrested Thursday, prosecutors said. The couple visited Roman in Pelican Bay State Prison in Northern California, and their orders allegedly included collecting taxes on businesses and gangs under the threat of violence and murder. The money was allegedly funneled back to Roman in prison. The 18 defendants arrested Thursday were to be arraigned later in the day, prosecutors said. Among those regularly extorted were vendors at an indoor Spanish-speaking marketplace called the Alameda Swap Meet, which is in the territory of another unit allegedly controlled by Roman called the 38th Street Gang. Danny Roman, and that's a little side thing I wrote, little side note I wrote. He'd been down since '84 for murder when Vianna was just 9 years old. And by 1988, he had become a made Mexican mafia member. The indictment alleges that Roman's gang empire distributed methamphetamine, cocaine, crack, and heroin, and murdered a gang member who owed a debt, committed armed robbery against 3 USC students, and plotted to kill a state court witness against a member of another gang, prosecutors said. Roman's daughter, Vianna Roman, who was 37 back in 2012, of L.A., and husband Aaron Soto, 40, of L.A., relayed the imprisoned leader's orders to a, quote, shot caller and other high-ranking members of Harpys, all according to prosecutors. Then she did plead guilty on May 1st, 2014. Specifically, she pled guilty to racketeering, narcotics, and weapons offenses, and she acted as a conduit for her father, a go-between. And she acknowledged all of this. That's where it's a little interesting for me because she does plead. She basically accepts and agrees in court that, yes, this is a gang. Yes, this is what I did for my father. And what I want to know in the comments down below is, do you guys consider her a snitch? Does that getting up there going, yep, this is what I did, I was a go-between for my father, does that constitute being a snitch? And that's where it's kind of interesting for me. And I'm not comparing Young Thug and Gunner and YSL and all that to this indictment because I think they're an absolute joke. And the story we're covering today is about some real gangsters. But the little point I'm making is if you followed that case with Young Thug and Gunner and Gunna in Atlanta, right? There was a state-level RICO, that case, okay? Vianna Roman was involved in a federal RICO, big difference. But state-level RICO, okay? Gunna takes a plea deal, all right? Doesn't testify. There's no video footage of him in an interview room eating a Big Mac, talking about Young Thug and all the crimes they did. But in his plea, they record him up in front of the judge as he takes the plea, and she says, "Is YSL a street gang, not just a music label?" And he goes, "Yes, ma'am." right? That's all he says, okay? And everybody, including Young Thug, said, rat. He's a dirty, dirty rat. Everybody cut him off. Nobody do music with him. And it just kind of made me think of that when I read Vianna Roman's plea, because she doesn't go testify against anybody. There's no interview footage of her, eating a Chipotle bowl or eating a Whopper, going, yeah, my dad's this, my dad's that, my husband's this, my husband's that. These are the shot callers. These are who I'm reporting with and working with. She just simply acknowledges that, yes, I was a go-between. This is what I was doing for my dad and his gang. What do you guys think, right? I think if we're going to have a standard of, hey, you talk to the police, you say anything that could benefit their case, you're a rat, well, then in this case, you got to say she snitched. Really interesting way to look at things. I want to know what you guys think down below. So she pled guilty in 2014. In 2015, March of 2015, her and other gang members got sentenced. This is an article, again, out of the Los Angeles Times. The daughter of a Mexican Mafia member who acted as the conduit between her father and South LA street gangs he controlled from state prison was sentenced today to 15 years in federal prison on racketeering charges. At this point, she was 39. Vianna Roman, 39, of South LA, received a 180-month prison term from United States District Judge R. Gary Klossner after she pled guilty last year in a RICO case targeting the Harpys street gang. Roman, who is the daughter of Mexican Mafia member Danny Roman, pled guilty last May to racketeering, narcotics, and weapons offenses, while admitting that she acted as a street-level proxy for her father, carrying out his orders as he exercised control over Harpys and other street gangs. Danny Roman is serving a life without parole sentence at Pelican Bay State Prison and was not charged in the federal RICO case. Quote, the shot caller of the Harpys gangs, Manuel Valencia, 38, of Walnut, was sentenced on March 2nd to 27 years in federal prison. Valencia pled guilty last May to racketeering and drug trafficking charges for his role in orchestrating the day-to-day activities of the gang. Valencia specifically admitted that he oversaw and participated in gang activities, which included conspiracy to murder and violent retaliation against the gang's rivals, issuing orders to gang members regarding violence such as drive-by shootings, collecting taxes from drug dealers who were allowed to operate in gang territory, and engaging in drug trafficking. The Harpys gang, which claims territory southwest of downtown LA and north of the University of Southern California, better known as USC Trojans, is one of more than a dozen Latino gangs across a wide swath of South LA that was overseen by Vianna Roman on behalf of her father. According to documents, Vianna Roman and Valencia orchestrated a scheme that allowed Danny Roman to continue to control the activities of the street gangs from the special housing unit, better known as the SHU, of Pelican Bay State Prison. Vianna Roman used coded language, interesting, to pass information to and received orders from her father during trips to the Pelican Bay Prison in Northern California. So she's going to visit him. Vianna Roman passed the orders to Valencia and other high-ranking members of the Harpys, who oversaw violent conduct and drug trafficking within both the Harpys territory and the broader area controlled by Danny Roman. Valencia controlled and enforced the collection of tax payments from Latino gangs under Danny Roman's control and issued orders to other gangs regarding drug sales and the use of violence. Today's sentencing of Vianna Roman concludes a federal case targeting the Harpys gang that was brought under the Federal Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organization Act, better known as RICO. Man, RICO, that is the biggest tool the feds have. And if they even think you're a part of something, you can go get a couple years. And a good case of this I read about the other day, it's really fascinating, is go look at the BMF case, the Black Mafia family, Big Meech and all that. There were guys literally that were just hanging out with the gang. And I'm talking about like, hey, Greenlit, give me a ride to the store. I got to go meet my buddy, right? Literally, just think about if you're friends with the guy, okay? I got to go meet my buddy. And he go picks up a pack. If the feds had somebody that did that in that case, 2 years. Think about it, literally 2 years, 2 years. Hey, bro, we're hanging out at night. We're at the club. Hey, bro, give me a ride to the store really quick. I got to pick up some money from this dude. All right, yeah, no problem, man. Boom. You did what? They said they picked up on this intercepted phone call on this burner phone. Yeah, you're the guy that gave him a ride in your whatever year BMW. Yeah, yep, that was you. You're the registered owner. 2 years. Like, what? It's really, really crazy, guys, how the feds can use that RICO statute. I encourage you to go look up stuff like that because it's fascinating. Like I said, the name of the operation was Operation Roman Empire. Danny Roman oversaw gang activity by giving orders that directed gang members to engage in criminal conduct, including the murder of a rival gang and Mexican Mafia members, and the extortion of businesses and gangs to generate income that was funneled back to Danny Roman in state prison. So, man, I mean, he's a bully. He's a thug. He's got all the power, all the control. They talked about that Alameda swap meet. I put pictures up of that. The distribution of all the different drugs, other street gangs, Operation Roman Empire. During the course of the Operation Roman Empire, investigators seized approximately 8.5 pounds of meth, 1/2 pound of heroin, approximately 1 pound of cocaine, 23 pounds of marijuana, and 22 guns. 2 more firearms were seized. 10 children, this is interesting. This is how, a lot of stuff they don't talk about. 10 children were removed from several residencies by the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services. And that's something that they don't talk about a lot, is the damage that the gang, the street, the drug life do to families. You hear about drug addiction. We've talked about a lot on this channel. But what they don't talk about is when these gang members go down, a lot of times you lose their kids. And even if they have spouses, because that's why I put that little clip up. And some people go, why are you using these old clips? Why are you doing this? It has nothing to do with that. Yes, it does. Because we cover gang life on this channel. And that guy in that clip talks about how he's got 8 sisters, 5 brothers. And literally, I know individuals. I live in an area with, Hispanic community and gangs and everything like that. And we don't need to go into it, but I've talked about it before on this channel. And it's literally what they are born into. I'm not excusing what Vianna Roman did, but her father goes to prison for murder when she's 9 years old. Okay? She loves her dad. She misses her dad. She goes and visits her dad. And pretty soon, her dad goes, could you do something for me? And it goes from there. He ruined her entire life. Her entire life. Yes, she has choices to make, and I'm not blaming all of him for everything. But again, it's not really having a fair shake when your dad becomes a made Mexican Mafia member and you are going to visit him and you love your dad and you want to make your dad happy and you feel bad and sad that your dad's in prison even though he did something wrong. You want to please him. That's what kids do. Anyway, there's so many layers to it. I just thought that was interesting. They made that note that 10 children were removed from homes. Anyway, much love, much appreciation. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, peace. Oh, no, really quick. I know what I was forgetting. One of the channels that I watched a good video on that gave some information on Conejo, Cali's Most Dangerous. I want to make sure I shout them out. Cali's Most Dangerous. Awesome YouTube channel. Does a way better job than I do. Go check them out. Cali's Most Dangerous. Peace.